Hey listener, welcome to Separate Bathrooms. I'm Cam-Daddo.
And I'm Ali-Daddo. This Friday, August the 11th, is the 35th Red Nose Day.
We thought this would be a perfect time to spotlight a very important episode.
It sure is. We spoke to Paul and Pauline Field in April of last year.
Yeah, not only do they have an amazing love story and some hilarious tales from Paul's days as manager of the Wiggles, but they also graciously share the story of losing their daughter, Bernadette, to SIDS.
Red Nose Day is a cause that Paul and the Wiggles have been long-time supporters of.
If you'd like to donate to Red Nose Day Australia and find out more about their work, there's a link in our show notes.
But for right now, enjoy the conversation with Paul and Pauline Field.
Didn't matter what they said, I looked at it, and they had both lost babies, and I thought, they can talk normally, they can walk. Like, one day I'm going to be there. I don't know how long it's going to take, but one day I'll be that person. And as long as I've got Paul, we're going to get to the other side of this, even though it's awful, awful, awful.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. My name's Ali-Daddo.
And I'm Cam-Daddo. Today's a beautiful day. We are actually in studio. The place where you're normally looking at us is our home studio.
Yes.
I'm sitting with a Hessian curtain behind me and Ali's on the red couch, 4 feet away.
Dogs at our feet and ants in the ceiling. So it's really nice to be in the studio, and we're really excited with the couple we are about to talk to.
Yeah, we're talking to Paul and Pauline Field. You might know Paul Field. He was in a band called the Cockroaches with his brothers John and Anthony. They were a big-time pub band in the 80s, and they went on to create the Wiggles, which if you're a parent or you've got kids, whatever, you know, everyone knows the Wiggles. They're a worldwide phenomenon.
Paul stopped managing them a couple of years ago, and he's actually gone on to release his own debut solo album called Love Songs for Lonely People. There's a lot to talk about with both of them. They've been through a lot through their marriage, and we're just going to get right into it. Please welcome Paul and Pauline into the bathroom.
Welcome, Paul and Pauline Field, to the bathroom. We're in studio today.
Fantastic.
We're actually
You
in
exist.
person. Yes, we're not facsimiles
No.
or
Real
holographic
people time.
images.
No.
So nice.
Hey, look, we're all about relationships here.
Yeah.
Yours is uniquely yours. You've been together a while. When did you meet? How did you meet?
Oh, good question.
Yeah. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Pauline could tell you what we were wearing as well.
Okay.
We met my first year out of high school, but we didn't get together till the following year, right? So we would see each other, and there was a guy who was constantly hanging around her. So I thought, in stupid bloke's terms, he must be with her, right? So I didn't ever go up to her. But we'd see each other like uni. Pauline went to Sydney Uni, and they had great gigs there and fun things. So I was there with a woman one year who she's described as a hussy.
What? Hang on, who's the hussy?
She was I was there with another woman, a girl.
Pauline, you've
And
described
Pauline, in
this person
referencing,
as
said
a hussy.
you were there
Hussies
with a hussy.
except me.
Right.
That's right. Absolutely, Pauline. I agree with you.
So we met very young. So we started dating the
19?
year after. But I'll throw to you, Pauline. Yeah,
I grew up in a country town, and we all wanted to come to Sydney when we finished school. So
Yeah.
I basically lied to my parents and said I had to go to Sydney Uni. The course wasn't anywhere else. And came to Sydney and met Paul in a pub and was amazed because all the boys in the country town I grew up, nice boys, but, short back and sides. And
Yep.
we used to call them parrot shirts, nice shirts with birds or something on them. Yeah, right.
What town was this parrot shirt paradise?
Cessnock. Lovely
it's
town.
Cessnock.
Yeah.
Right. Beautiful.
Anyway, I met
Hunter
Paul in
Valley.
a pub. He was wearing black jeans, a black T-shirt, a black leather jacket, black boots. He had long, dark, curly hair. And he was dancing to a rockabilly band. Now, boys in Cessnock, lovely as they are, didn't dance. So.
Yes. So he's a little bit of the bad boy vibe for you there, Paul.
It was.
How soon after that did the Cockroaches start then?
We'd actually started before we met.
Yeah, okay, right.
We started high school. My brothers and I went to a boarding school, for God's sake, and because my dad was from the bush. So we went there, and I was the first out of school. So we'd do gigs. And again, thinking back on it, like I was a teenager booking us into pubs and clubs in the Cross.
Amazing.
Right. So I wasn't technically legally allowed to go in there, but I was booking them, right? You know, and I'd literally drive the car. The boys would jump the wall. We'd go to a gig and secret them back in. So it's pretty trippy times, but good fun. And that's the weird thing. Like and this is the spooky thing of Paul and Pauline. The names are self-evident, and often at parties, people will point that out to us like we hadn't realised.
Yeah, right.
Paul, did you? It's like, yeah, we know.
Trust me, I was so close. I
Figured
thought,
it out
no,
pretty quick.
it's like Daddo jokes. You know, you think we've heard them all, and someone will go, "Where's your mummo, Daddo?" And you go, "Yeah, haven't heard that one."
That's it. So, but it gets kind of spooky, as in sliding doors. Wow, done my head in. One of seven kids, middle child of seven, middle child of seven.
Yep.
Paul and Pauline. She went to a St. Joseph's in the high school. I went to a St. Joseph's in the city.
Ooh, okay.
Both our fathers should have died in their early 30s, but survived. So Pauline's dad lost his arm in a mining accident. My dad flatlined in his early 30s, you know, from smoking a lot, type A and whatever, but they survived. So, you know, how'd she end up in Sydney? Thank God, yeah.
Did you know that he was a rock star when he was dressed in black? And did you know that he was no?
I knew he was in a band, but I think it was early days at that stage. And again, as I say, he danced, he sang, and my father was very, because in Cessnock, good girls didn't go to pubs.
Right.
And I remember one weekend going home from uni having to explain, no, people go to pubs in Sydney for music. It's really different. They're not hussies. You know?
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah.
Yes. So he took a dad a while to get over. I was dating a guy in a band and, you know, I went to pubs. And
the first time we'd met him, I was at college and I was performing in Fiddler on the Roof.
Right.
And my part required me to grow a beard. And I didn't leave enough time, so it was more kind of Yasser Arafat look rather than Mottle the Tailor, right? You know. So the first time I met him, and like beards, all our sons have got beards now, but they weren't cool at the time. And it was the worst look to meet the guy for the first time. Cut to the chase many, 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 many years later when I proposed to Pauline, and Pauline's mum and dad are early to bed, right? You know, and so we rang them, and Pauline's mum answers and calls out the good news to Ron, and she said, "What was the line?"
Oh, Pauline's engaged. Mum said, "Who to?"
Pauline's dad said, "Ron said who to?"
We've
We've been going out for many years.
For 4.5 years at that stage.
I'd left a good impression.
Clearly.
But also for many years he used to say, is he going to get a real job? Like, does he need a real job? Even when the Wiggles were huge and Paul took them on a tour of the Wiggles studio with records everywhere, their own recording studio, the whole Dad was like, so they can make a living from this, can they, Paul? He's like, yeah, Ron, they're doing okay.
They did all right.
So at that stage, they'd sold 30 million CDs and DVDs and all this stuff on the wall. And again, so you're getting plenty of shows, Paul? And stuff like, yeah, they're doing okay, you know. Just funny, different planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So it was funny, yeah. He never kind of understood the world we lived in, you know.
I mean, you ended up managing the Wiggles. Pauline, you've been on the sidelines of all this, and as you said, you came from Cessnock, you're a country girl, and you could spot a floozy a mile away. and
Still does.
So, yeah, sure, you never lose that radar. True. You know.
True.
Right, honey?
Even when the husband denies it, the wife knows.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother subject. Tell me, what was it like being an observer, you know, and with Paul during that time as all that's coming down and that success is coming? And
it was quite surreal because, as I said, I came from a very conservative family, so I never assumed I'd be married to someone in the entertainment industry, but it just sort of all started off teaching and it grew from there and then gave up teaching and to do the band, and it was very much, you know, we've got security, got a regular job.
Yeah. Should
Should I do this? And I said, well, just go for it. We're young. You'll never know if you don't give it a go. And, yeah, it grew as well.
Yep.
And I was home having babies and he was on tour and it just, I think because it was from the start, I didn't really know anything else. He was always doing gigs on weekends. He went away a lot, travelling a lot. Then with the Wiggles, none of us expected that to take off. And I remember being American, going to a Walmart and they had Wiggles merch and picking up a cup with, you know, Anthony on it.
It was a doll, an Anthony doll.
Yes.
Picking up something going, this is mental. Like,
Yes.
Walmart near New York and there's, you know, my brother-in-law. So it grew and was amazing to us as well as everybody else. I don't know. I was home with the kids and that allowed Paul to go and travel and did a lot of travel.
Pauline, you're fascinating me because you've come out of a completely different area and landed in the entertainment world. What's your summation as a country girl? What's your summation of the entertainment business?
Oh, you see a lot of rubbish and a lot of fake people. And yes, I used to discern people from how they reacted, because obviously a lot of people would react to the Wiggles and sort of ignore the wives and kids and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
So, yeah, I had a high radar for, BS people and genuine people. And there's also a lot of genuine people in there, a lot of good people. But, yeah, I think the difference was, to me, looking at the Cockroaches and the Wiggles, it came from a love of music. And on weekends at home, they would still be playing music in an empty lounge room as opposed to we want to be stars or we want to be famous. I think that's the difference between real musicians and wannabes.
Yeah.
And what you raised earlier, there are people where I go, oh, she's lovely. And Pauline going, well, she is to you, but she totally ignored me, or that kind of stuff, Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that over the years. What do you do, Pauline? Oh, I work in a high school.
Yeah.
I'll move on to someone else more interesting.
I'm a stay-at-home mum.
Yes.
Uh-huh. That's it.
Well, I was that for 15 years.
Yeah,
so-
same with me. That's what I did as well, and happily wouldn't change
totally.
a day of it. Yeah, but as soon as you let that one out, it was like, yeah, right, bye. Especially in the entertainment industry, no
I've
one
been
gave
at
a
many
hoot.
gatherings where, Paul's totally engaged with people. I'm just
Yeah.
in the background going, I wonder where the food is.
So I wouldn't want to go to some of them. So many of them. I just was like, really? It's like, it'll be fun, honey. Will it be fun though?
Yeah.
Will it?
It's funny though. Anthony was in the Celebrity Grand Prix, right? I wouldn't normally be interested in that, and Anthony said, "Come along, it's going to be fun." Right? So I went, "Yeah, cool." So I went along, and it's big boys' toys. I wouldn't normally watch it on TV, but and they're screaming around. It's pretty amazing, and jets flying over, and also I'm along for the ride, so I get all the celebrity perks, as in the Moet de Chandon tent, all this kind of stuff, right? And Paul and I very close. And I tell her everything, which is good 99% of the times. There are other times I think, oh, yeah, perhaps not. Right, so I am flying high, shouldn't be driving heavy machinery or anything like that, right? And it's great and, blah, blah, blah. So I ring her up, right? And I go, boy, this is so great. Oh, they're bloody jets and we're in the Moe tent. And it was the model.
You had your photo with Christy Hins.
Christy Hins.
Yeah.
Right, and I just said, Christy Hins, we got a shot together, of which one of my sisters went, you look too happy in that photo. Right? Anyway.
I like her. I like your sister.
Yeah. Anyways, I had a Crown Lager in one hand and she's an actress. She was pretending to be nice. But anyway, so I'm having the best time. I say this to Pauline, and again, Sydney Uni graduate, of course she's highly intelligent, but a script writer couldn't have come up with a better line, because you will give you where you were at the time, where you were when I called you from the Celebrity Grand Prix.
I was at Parkley Markets
Right on.
looking for the fake Australian cricket jerseys that my three sons wanted. And
With one of their friends.
One of their friends who decided he needed to vomit.
Oh, okay.
So you're in real life.
Yep.
Yeah.
She'd gone taken this poor little fella into the public toilets.
I'm not good with public toilets at the best of time, but
Yep.
So she came out gagging.
so this poor little boy was vomiting. I was gagging. I'm like, can we go? We've got the $10 cricket
You
jerseys.
old mate. Christy
Oh,
here.
with-
No,
The crownie and a model in the other.
you ready for the line? This is so good. She went, there are times when you and I lead very different lives. How good's that?
So good.
And that's it was for many, many events.
So you've been together for 41 years, is that right?
Yeah.
41 years.
Well researched.
Married for 37.
Yeah.
So your relationships clearly have endured a lot. The separation is never easy. I know that's been really difficult for Cam and I when, he's been away so much, raising kids often on your own and all the trials and tribulations of that. But you do say that you are stronger today than ever, which I love. Yeah. What is the secret to your longevity, do you think?
Pauline.
Pauline is the secret.
I think you might be right.
That's both me throwing to her.
Yes.
And also
And answering the question.
Because, seriously, she is so accepting and understanding, and we're a team kind of thing. I never said that, but just, there are a lot of people who would complain, understandably, but we just never saw ourselves as different.
So what do you think? What do you think the secret is to your longevity?
Two things. I think commitment. We both, once we got married, you were married. That was it. You were always going to be married, and we had rough times like everyone else. But it was never a worry in the back of my mind, this could lead to separation or anything. That never crossed my mind. We'd always be together. And I think along with that, a sense of humour. We had a great sense of humour and a great sense of fun over the years, and which sees you through a lot of bad times, and we've been through a few bad times. And, I think commitment and sense of humour,
And Paul, you said that you tell her everything. So it sounds like communication is hugely successful with both of you.
We just clung to each other, and we're lucky.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're sort of answering the next question, because obviously there's a lot has been written about the loss of your daughter Bernadette.
Yeah.
That happened back in 88.
Yeah.
So that must have been very public. How was that going through that time in the press? Were they kind to you guys? Were they, what was it like?
Well, the worst thing was Paul was actually away touring when it happened. I'd gone up to stay with my mum and dad, so I wasn't home alone for a couple of weeks. And, Bernadette didn't wake up one morning and all the horrors that entailed. And because Paul was up in Queensland, it took a long time for him to get back that night. So that was awful. But then we saw things like, Richard Wilkins on TV said something publicly, and it was such a shock.
Yeah.
But everyone was...
Did you mind?
No, it wasn't so much I minded. It was just a shock that it was a public thing. And then I think it was in the paper and, a few things like that. But everyone was very respectful and, very generous. The worst thing was he had to go back on tour quite soon afterwards.
Like a week or two later.
I was home with the kids, and that was, Paul's job. Yeah, it was awful.
And it's interesting, I can tell you some awful statistics. Over 70, and this hasn't changed, over 70% of marriages where a child dies break up.
Yeah.
Right? And I can totally understand that.
Why do you think that is?
I think people grieve at different times, and I remember on the day apologising to Paul that,
I'm sorry.
sort of happened on my watch and you're away. I think,
that-
maybe sometimes there's blame and all that sort of
looking
thing.
for something to blame it,
Yeah.
or someone to blame it on out of the pain of their own loss. Yeah.
And it was interesting where Pauline, very soon someone suggested she get counselling, which is a brilliant suggestion, right? But no one suggested it to me.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but not. It's not. It's no one. No one did.
Wow.
And even nowadays, because I do a lot of work with, or do some work, I should say, over the years, over the decades with Red Nose Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, blokes don't naturally ask for help.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact, let alone 30-something years ago.
Yes, yes.
And it was just no wisdom of mine. I literally was on the road imploding. I was a wreck. And it's, as I'm talking to you now, it's a millimetre below the surface.
Yes.
It's 33 years ago, 34 years ago, and a minute ago.
Yes.
And grief's like that. It's not linear. It can just hit you like a friggin' ton of bricks at any time. And so anyway, I was a wreck, and I got to a phone booth and rang her. And I just said, I need help.
Yeah.
I'm a friggin' mess, know. So we went and got counselling, and there's another big, how do we survive that? Yeah. We got counselling, and I was just, cliche when I first spoke to this guy, my arms crossed, in my head going, here's another guy making money out of our misery, just an awful, angry man, right, But he'd lost a child himself, not through SIDS, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And he just took me through it. And it wasn't, as you know, with therapy, just about this. It's about everything and prioritising in life. And also just the acknowledgement. Did we do some together as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just that one day you might be in inverted commas fine and he's a wreck, and vice versa, and all that kind of stuff. And I was also worried, we had a little boy, Luke, who was 2 at the time. And, he's old enough to have to know.
Yeah.
And I even to this day worry about what effect that's had on him. But we were very open and stuff. And I remember, God, even before Bernadette passed away, never alone for a second. But anyway, he was in the lounge room, and a baby's cry when they're bored or hungry or got my finger in the door kind of cry. It's a different cry. And his was like that, like shrieking. And we raced in, and it was nothing. And I know that now. That was grief because when it happened, it's a nightmare. Pauline went in at a parent's place to find her there, ran out screaming and wailing. Luke's memory of that would have been all screaming,
Absolutely.
They raced to the hospital, you can only imagine, and so, yeah, I mean, and Red Nose are very helpful with that, about, we speak about Bernadette, and particularly for a little 2-year-old's point of view, we had to say in terms he would understand, she was weak, you're strong, it's not going to happen to you. Because he might have thought it was going to happen to him.
Yeah.
Who knows, And even though all the children, the other children weren't around when she was alive, photos of her everywhere, et cetera, and they've all, Pauline's the only one in the family without a tattoo, but,
Oh, really? You all got tattoos?
And particularly one year, because she never celebrated a birthday. She died at 7.5 months, and so I always remember the day she died. And then someone said to me one day, what day was she born? And I forgot, which killed me, So in classic Field melodramatic way, I said, I'll get it tattooed. And it's actually kind of nice. And the kids have tattoos of her in some way, shape or form as well, But anyway, it was both a hugely private and public thing. Yeah. Not much was known about SIDS then. There wasn't a huge public awareness. Yeah. And it was an awful statistic, I think, was it 1 in 500 back in those days? I don't know what it was, but it was a large number of babies were dying in Australia and New Zealand compared to overseas. And they didn't know why, right? So it was good to spread awareness, and that triggered the research. Anyway, the year after she died, our management and myself put together a concert called Cradle Rock, which was to raise awareness. And Jimmy Barnes is a mate still to this day, the world's loveliest man, right? And his wife Jane, they're just awesome. And he was the first to say, I'm there, right? And and it was interesting because it was a huge success. It got a lot of press, papers, MTV, you name it. And on the night, I remember Pauline was with Claire, our daughter, who was subsequent child after Bernadette, who was born almost 9 months after, and well, you can talk about the night.
Oh, I just found it an awful night. I spent the whole night crying. I was in a back room because I had a baby. Yeah. And everyone kept going, isn't this fantastic? What a great night. And I was thinking, it's a shocking. You're only here because our daughter died.
That's right.
I couldn't believe how insensitive these people were going, isn't this fantastic? What a great gig. And yes, it was very... Yeah, those things were hard. And like even Claire, she looked like Bernadette.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And I went shopping with her one day, and she was the image of her. And I used to call her Bernadette, and then I'd feel guilty. And I walked past a hairdresser that said, yes, had a sign in the window, yes, we pierce babies' ears. So I thought, that's what I'll do. So I went in, pre-mobiles, didn't ask Paul or anything, and got her ears pierced. And it was great because she looked different in photos. She looked different, but everyone was so horrified because she was 4 weeks old and I had her ears pierced, which these were crazy things you did when you were grief-stricken and not logical, but it worked for me perfectly because suddenly they were two separate babies.
Yeah.
And even recently, our eldest son's had a daughter who was the image of Bernadette.
Again, it's which is beautiful and wonderful. Terrible. And we had to stop saying it to each other because we freaked her out a little bit, and Luke a little bit. We've got to stop saying that because there's that real awareness because your life changes from. It's the same with a lot of things where other people die of this or die of that whereas no, it can happen to us, and it did happen to us. It just changes the way you are, and certainly since they've done evidence-based scientific research into SIDS, and their safe sleeping campaign that Red Nose Australia continue to this day has reduced the incidence of SIDS in Australia and I think New Zealand by over 80%. And in real terms, that's 10,000 babies that are alive, or people that are alive now that wouldn't be had they not done that. So Anyway, yeah, but life changed in a heartbeat for us. And I've often said this, at the time it happened, it's like being thrown from a cliff. You know those couple of seconds where your child in a shopping centre is missing and that dread that fills you. Well, there's no coming back from that's constant.
Yeah.
And the cliff is you have no control at all. And this sounds melodramatic, but it's true. You actually don't think you can survive.
Yeah.
And Pauline was asleep, I remember, during the night, and she'd be crying. I thought she was awake, and like crying in her sleep, like it's profound is not the word. There aren't words to describe it, and I know we've met, parents and of children who never have a child after that.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. And with our own children now having children, which is just beyond joyous, and we're mad grandparents, right? But it's at the stage you never feel you're going to laugh again, and they can bring you back to that, and anyway.
I remember talking to a friend of mine who lost her son, and she would often feel guilty when she did feel happy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that there was guilt around that.
Totally.
Is that an experience for you?
Oh, totally. I remember Beattie died on a Friday, and the Sunday was Father's Day, and we all were apologising to Dad, saying, sorry, obviously we haven't got presents or anything. And my sister had already bought a present, which was some ABC thing of, birds chirping or something, and they put it on, and we all burst out laughing because it was so crazy. And straight away, we all sort of went, oh, my God, she only died 2 days ago and we're laughing. Like, that's awful. And, and I don't think I would have got out of bed except we had a 2-year-old. But same thing, every time you enjoyed something, you'd think, oh, I shouldn't be. Or we went to a friend's baby's baptism, and I don't know why we thought it was a thing to do. Started crying in the church, then we were meant to go somewhere else for, lunch, and sat in the car going, I can't go to lunch, just weeping, going, that was crazy. Why did we think we could go to a baby girl's celebration,
And over the years, there are things that you're at, and I'll tear up. Now, I'm now nearly 61, so that could be a Lipton's tea commercial, for God's sake. But back in the day, you think...
I do the same thing.
There you go.
You're not alone.
It's true.
Okay. So we're a bit like that way anyway. But seriously, they'd be thinking, what the hell? Why is this? And it's only till you start to think about, okay, this is a insert event, bar mitzvah, a first communion, or whatever event that my girl didn't have, and to this day it kills you, it breaks your heart, and so, there's so many good organisations, and there's so much support there nowadays, which is great. But we really were, apart from the people from what is now called Red Nose, swimming alone, where no one really fully understand. And, do I talk about it or do I not?
Yeah.
Whereas, mate, you can never upset us. We've been as upset as you can. And in fact, that's kind of it. As you can hear, you have to stop yourself from talking about her. Like when people say, how are you? Well, my world's, you know what I mean? Like you can't really. And I kid you not, like, how many children do you have? I felt awful not saying. And then if they, now I fabricate it. And now, I mean, it's different with no wallets, but I got a photo on the inside of everything I have, and I'd get that out. And nowadays it's kind of nice. I say, oh, who's that little one?
Yeah.
That's Bernadette. Oh, that's my daughter. Oh, she's a lot older now, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the other thing the counsellor did. The counsellor gave us permission to say, it's up to you. If you want to tell someone, you can. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's almost like getting permission from this counsellor of how to proceed forward. So, there were lots of tricky things like that.
Pauline, what are the things that you would like people to say to you? Like, what are the best things someone can say? Because often, if I've met you and it's just happened,
I think talking about it, a lot of people feel awkward when someone's lost something and think, I don't want to upset them, I don't want to hurt them, I won't say anything, which is upsetting in itself.
Okay.
And we had the classic thing of you could tell people were avoiding us, and friends who I was very close to before the event to I felt less close to from the way they handled it, and other people who weren't as close handled it so beautifully. I think just acknowledge it, just say, that's terrible, or that's a shitty thing that happened, or how awful. Just that acknowledgement. And a lot of people would never say a name. And as Paul said, you can't upset anyone anymore. But I think, isn't that lovely? Someone would say, it's Bernadette's birthday, I'm thinking about you today. And, we still get messages like that 30 years later. And I go, isn't that lovely? And, can you believe these people still comment this many years later? I think just saying anything but acknowledging it. Don't ignore it. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Don't cross the street and avoid them. They know. They can tell you're doing that. And I had one friend who said, I've just got pregnant. I won't be able to come to the funeral. It would upset me too much. And you sort of go, oh, okay, righto, yeah, okay. And then on the day, 2 other friends who were literally 9 months pregnant came to the funeral, and had their babies like 2 days later. And one of them drove herself. And I have never forgotten that ever. That they did that. And they both had daughters 2 days after the funeral. And I've never forgotten those women. It's just, you shouldn't say there's right and wrong ways, but there are. The right way is to acknowledge it in whatever form. Or, turn up with a lasagna, turn up with a cake. They really are appreciated, and just talk about her,
And even if you don't know what to say, the fact you've shown up is enough sometimes. There's no script, there's no right or wrong. If you're there for them, turning up to the funeral is enough to go thanks, right? Because you are free falling, and any help is good help and thing.
I was so touched, Paul, when we were organising this podcast, and you wrote the email, and you included a picture of Bernadette. It was really beautiful.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful to do that. So
and again, that is the real thing. She's gone. She's not here, and we're so lucky to have some photos. I kept Kodak in business, thank God I did,
Right,
we're so lucky. And anyway, she's never forgotten, never will be. And but I guess that's the point. We clung to each other at that time. We had each other, and no skill or expertise. We did get help, which was good. But
did you find that helped, Pauline?
Counselling?
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, good.
Totally. It was very challenging and very confronting. I thought he would just be there to comfort us.
Right.
But I think the first session I went to, he said, where do you think Bernadette is? And, being a good Catholic girl, I went, in heaven. And he said, what's that mean? And I went, shit, I don't know. Like, I really had to, and he wasn't talking. He was just poking and prodding with these questions, which really challenged my faith and challenged everything. Which, it was like picking a scab off. Once you explored it, you really had to work out what you thought about things. So I found it very difficult but very rewarding. And again, saying we clung to each other, somewhere even in the depth of grief, somewhere in my head I thought, as long as I've got Paul, we'll be okay.
Oh.
Like, I know it'll take a while.
Yeah.
And that's the other good thing about support groups like it was SIDS back in the day. Bernadette actually died on Red Nose Day. So when we went to the emergency department, all the nurses and doctors all had red noses on elastic around their wrists. So everywhere you looked was like far out. And people were there from SIDS for a meeting at the hospital, how to deal with parents that come in.
Of course.
Someone went into their meeting and went, you're not going to believe this. Someone has come in with a baby from SIDS. And even like the doctor came in and said, she was obviously dead, but it's sudden infant death. And I was saying, no, I'm sure she suffocated under all these heavy blankets. And, he was explaining medically, no, that would look like this, looks like that. And, police came because she died unexplained at home. And, they sort of took me out of the room, but I saw them walk past and all I could think of was, why have they got guns? Like, she had nappy rash. They're going to think I'm a terrible mother. But the police came later to the house and I remember this young policewoman just sobbed the whole time, which was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And 2 people from SIDS came and said, you're not going to believe it. We were at the hospital for a meeting, so we've come. And I can't remember, actually they said a lot of corny stuff that I didn't like about, she's in heaven painting rainbows or whatever. But the thing I did like, it didn't matter what they said, I looked at it, and they had both lost babies, and I thought, they can talk normally, they can walk.
Okay.
Like one day I'm going to be there. Yeah. So that's what I took from that. I don't know how long it's going to take, but one day I'll be that person. And as long as I've got Paul, we're going to get to the other side of this, even though it's awful, awful, awful.
Also, the fact it was in a country hospital, and again, as Pauline said, I don't know how the world works. Awful. The most terrible things happen and good things do, and sometimes people are in the right place. I don't know how I'll work it out. The thing that's eternal for me is love. The love for each other, for Bernadette, will never end, right? So that's my glimpse into the eternal. And same with music and all that. It's something that's just on another level. But the fact we're in a country hospital...
Oh, yeah, luckily they let us nurse her for a few hours, and, my mum my mum was with me, but my sister turned up and other people sort of turned up. And they kept saying, but Pauline, it's Friday. She has to go to Newcastle for an autopsy, which again is another horror to think they're going to do that. And I was saying, she's never been out of my sight, How can I let her go? Anyway, I found out later, instead of taking her into some government van, a nurse from the hospital went in an ambulance with her to Newcastle, which was... I remember,
so nice.
I remember saying to Mum, can you get their details?
Yeah.
I need to write to, it was above and beyond what they normally do. And, you hear from my brother's a police detective, and he said, look, as hard as you get over the years, the thing that affects cops, everybody, is babies and little kids. And even the fact, as I said, she had to go for an autopsy, which is just the worst thought in the world. And I remember not long after, there was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald. Paul was like, please don't read it. But I had to. I had to read every detail, which was horrible. But in the middle of it, they said, the one time there's no black humour in the morgue, or the one time, everyone is quiet, is when it's a baby.
Yeah.
So even in the midst of something awful, it was like, okay, they treat babies differently. And then you could pay extra to get the autopsy report. And Paul was like, I don't want to read it. And I went, I have to read every single detail, which I don't know if it's because you're a mother and you've carried that baby. I needed to know everything.
Yeah.
But yes, that was one of the horrors, that there was an autopsy involved. But everyone from this policewoman crying to a nurse going in an ambulance.
And that concept, like, she's never been anywhere by herself. Well, she's dead now. But that same, you know what I mean? Like, it's an awful, awful thing that being in the country, they helped us out. Like, what a beautiful, generous vocation that woman has to say, I'll go with her.
Yeah.
But that was the thing. Because I was home with them full time. I was a full time mum. She'd never been out of my sight, and suddenly they've got to literally drag you out of the hospital, going, you've got to leave her there. And I remember coming out and the sun was shining, and there were two cleaners sort of leaning on their mops, laughing. And I remember saying to my mum, "Why are they laughing? Don't they know it's like hasn't it been announced what's this awful thing has happened?
Yeah,
and
why hasn't the world changed around me? Because my whole world is...
Yes. And then we drove home and the backyard was filled with like 20 cars, and like it felt like we'd been gone 5 minutes, but it'd been hours.
Yeah. Paul and Pauline, you guys have been so kind and generous with your information. I mean, it's been, to me, eye-opening. And how brave you continue to be. And I'm sure that what you are doing and the actions that you two continue to take are assisting so many people. More than the ripple effect of what you are doing it's not unquantifiable. And so thank you on behalf of all those people that you are helping through SIDS and Red Nose Day. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us in the bathroom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we do a very quick... I don't know if you're going to be able to do this, Paul. Be quick. This is going to be really hard for you. We're going to challenge you on this.
Good God above. Yeah.
It's a 2-minute shower, so we kind of need one-word answers.
Jesus.
Oh, that's a challenge for him.
We can snip it, though.
It's not gonna...
We will snip.
Do your best.
So the ums and ahs will snip out. We'll just go to your answers.
No, he's got such amazing stories. I want to hear them all.
I
That's
know.
the thing. I'm like, yeah, keep going. But all right, 2-minute shower, one-word question, one-word answers, if possible. All right.
You go.
Okay. What is, and I'll ask both of you, what is your best quality?
My eyebrows. No, I'm changing that. Again,
What is your best quality?
My tattoos.
Ooh, okay.
We're still going to put eyebrows in there.
I would have said his kindness and empathy, but yeah.
What's your best quality?
I don't know. Common sense.
There you go.
It's a good one.
There you go. Who do you admire, Pauline?
I admire Paul. He's known who he is all our married life. Like I was young and he one word.
Thank you.
Hopeless. No.
Okay, Paul. Good, I love it. Who do you admire?
Well, quid pro quo, but it's true. The most in the world, Pauline. Yeah.
Okay.
So the one word is Pauline now.
All right, you can use a few words for this. What does your perfect day look like?
I get to nurse my grandchildren. I'm hanging with Pauline, and I see the Stones and Springsteen.
Okay. Done.
It's a busy day.
Look at a fish.
Granted.
I was going to say oysters and champagne.
Right on.
Throw that in there as well. Why not?
All right. Who's the most fascinating person you've ever met?
I'm going to say Jimmy Barnes, and well, I'll put a couple, Jimmy and Jane Barnes.
Okay.
They're a fascinating couple. They're beautiful, they're kind, they're generous. They've got this crazy rock and roll history, but they're family people and sharers of food and table. They're beautiful, fascinating people.
It's both shameless name dropping and fact.
Yeah.
Do it.
Keith Richards. Right?
Oh, wow.
So I met the Stones before they played in Hong Kong, and through a mate and the rest of it. And it was a conversation with Jack Sparrow, but having read his book, having worshipped the Stones since I was a teenager, and the conversation was literally this, because they said they're going to come along, they say hello to each of you, they'll turn around, they'll take a photo, and they'll walk on stage.
Yeah.
Right? So it's okay, all right, you know.
Yeah.
And he come along, and I said, I saw you play live at the Enmore Theatre, which is a dream come true, right? They're this far away from it. And it was Jack Sparrow just and that was my conversation with Keith Richards.
I thought you were going to tell us that he said something really profound to you.
No, that was it. That's a Keith conversation.
Mick, guitar, whiskey. All right.
I love it.
Sorry.
What the world needs now is. How about you, Pauline?
I think empathy.
To walk the talk.
Talk.
So we have leaders and politicians who say things and just don't do it.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. We're winding it up with this one. Your partner in one word.
Fantastic.
Joy. Yeah,
Oh, you too.
it's true.
We've had a lot of people in the bathroom. And we have had, but you two are just so special. I mean, as Cam said, sharing your story, but the amount of love that the both of you have and how you, as you said, you've clung to each other and how that's gotten you through the most horrific time is just, it's inspirational and it's so wonderful. It's so lovely to meet you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you
Lovely
too.
to meet you. Yeah, thank you.
And out they go. Amazing. I got really emotional summing that up. I just thought how brave, and also when Paul was saying how close it is to the surface.
Yeah, you can
Still,
see it.
any kind of trauma, you see it, you feel it,
Yeah.
and that's in a most respectful way too, positive way, because there's such depth there and of life, and appreciation and gratitude of what they have for their grandkids and life and the experience of the whole thing, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great charity, Red Nose Day, everything that they do. And as Paul said, the strides that they've made about SIDS is really important, and that as a parent that, you have that knowledge and understanding of how to put your baby to sleep, it can happen to anyone. There was little Bernadette, a healthy 7.5-month-old. So it's good to know. It's not something to be afraid of, but it's certainly good to know, good information. Yeah. Well, it was really an honour to talk with them, and it was an honour to hear their story and have them share so beautifully. And just what a beautiful love story. They're so in love with each other. Still 41 years. They're still in love. It's just so great.
Do you think we'll be there? I hope so.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you
great.
crack me up.
Yeah, just wonderful. So very grateful to them for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you for being here with us. Can you do us a favour? If you like the podcast, please like us on the, tick the box, whatever it has to happen. Please like us wherever you are and leave a comment. That helps the podcast.
Great. And join us next time in separate bathrooms. Thanks for listening.